You know how almost everyone in the automobile space has been predicting a car market crash? Well, it's here now, and it's the biggest car market crash we've ever witnessed. Every part of the car industry is cracking under pressure. Dealerships are struggling to move their inventory, leaving lots full of unsold vehicles gathering dust. Auto loans are getting harder and harder to secure as lenders tighten their belts. And if you think repossessions were a problem before, you haven't seen anything yet. They're skyrocketing to levels that we haven't witnessed in years. So what exactly is causing all this turmoil? How did car prices climb so high? And is this a good time to buy a car? Join us as we discuss this and more. The car market started showing some serious warning signs in the latter part of the year 2024. Rising interest rates, inflation that just won't quit, and growing economic uncertainty all teamed up to hit consumer wallets hard. People simply didn't have the same purchasing power they used to, and things only got messier as we rolled into the year 2025. A mix of tough financial conditions made it harder than ever for folks to buy a car, whether they were eyeing something brand new or hunting for a good deal on a used ride. First, let's talk about the big hitters, insurance premiums and interest rates. Both of these are soaring to jaw-dropping levels right now. If you're trying to buy or finance a car, you're walking into a financial minefield. It's not just about high sticker prices anymore. It's the extra costs piling on top that are making life so much harder for car buyers. There's also the problem of increased repossessions. Yes, the number of people losing their cars because they can't keep up with payments is the highest it has ever been in recorded history in the United States. Think about that for a second. It means more families than ever are facing the heartbreak of having their vehicles taken away, and it's a clear sign that the system isn't working for a lot of people. And if you thought that was bad, there's another layer to this crisis: inventory levels. Car dealerships across the United States are absolutely overflowing with vehicles right now. We're talking about the biggest stockpile we've seen in 8 years. On paper, you'd think that might be good news for buyers. More cars, more choices, right? But when you add skyrocketing costs and financial pressure into the mix, it's not so simple. This glut of vehicles paired with shrinking buyer demand is creating a perfect storm for disaster in the automotive industry. We are undoubtedly teetering on the edge of a significant car market crash, potentially looming in the year 2025. Another big reason why we're seeing such a dramatic slowdown in car sales is the huge increase in MSRP prices. Since the year 2019, the average price of vehicles has gone up by a staggering 42%. To put that into perspective, many cars are now being sold for close to $100,000. It's not hard to see why people might hesitate to spend that kind of money. I mean, think about it. Wouldn't you rather put that towards a house or something that actually appreciates in value, rather than splurge on a car that's going to lose its worth the moment you drive it off the lot? It's just not a smart financial move for most people. Because of this, dealerships across the United States are struggling to move inventory, and it's especially noticeable with trucks. Right now, there are over 25,000 brand new Ram models, including the Ram 1500s, 2500s, and 3500s, just sitting on dealership lots, collecting dust. These trucks have been sitting there for more than 220 days. That's over 7 months. And when you think about how much space they take up and how much money is tied up in those unsold vehicles, it's a pretty big deal for the dealerships. The situation isn't much better for other vehicles either. Nationwide, the supply of new cars remains well above average, fluctuating between 80 and 90 days of inventory for most models. What does that mean? Well, in a hypothetical situation where no new cars were delivered to dealerships, it would still take roughly 3 months to sell off all the cars currently available. For comparison, in a healthy and balanced market, this number would typically sit at about 60 days of inventory. So we're looking at an oversupply situation that's causing some serious headaches for car dealers. To make matters worse, the longer a car sits on the lot, the more it costs the dealership. They have to pay for things like insurance, maintenance, and even the interest on loans for their inventory. And with today's sky-high interest rates, those costs add up quickly. It's a tough spot for everyone involved: the dealers, the manufacturers, and especially the customers who are trying to make smart financial decisions in a market like this. Perhaps the most alarming issue is that right now, in the United States, the average monthly payment for a new vehicle loan is over $760. That's a hefty chunk of change. What's even more jaw-dropping is that about 1 out of every 6 people taking out a vehicle loan today is signing up for a monthly payment that's over $1,000. $1,000 for a car payment. That's like renting a small apartment in some places. And if you're thinking, well, maybe the interest rates make it worth it, I'm here to tell you they don't. fact. The average interest rate for a new vehicle loan right now is 7.2%. For a used vehicle, it's even worse, with a national average of 11.4%. That's pretty brutal, right? Especially when you compare it to just a few years ago when rates were much more reasonable. Now let's dive into what's happening on dealership lots. Remember those Toyota Tundras that used to be the hottest thing around? During the pandemic, people were practically begging dealerships to let them buy one. They'd sell out almost instantly, sometimes even before they arrived on the lot. But fast forward to today, and it's a whole different story. These once coveted trucks are now just sitting there. In many parts of the country, brand new Toyota Tundras are collecting dust for over 200 days, sometimes even up to 250 days before anyone drives them home. That's insane when you think about how quickly they used to sell. What's going on? Well, people are starting to realize that maybe these trucks aren't as amazing as they were hyped up to be. On top of that, they're outrageously expensive, and with the current financial squeeze, fewer people are willing to shell out that kind of money for a vehicle. It's a wild shift from just a couple of years ago, and it's a clear sign that the car market is going through some big changes. If you take a walk into any dealership these days, you might be in for a bit of sticker shock. Most Toyota Tundras you'll find on the lot are priced right around $60,000. And if that doesn't seem steep enough, some of them are pushing well above $70,000. Can you believe that? For a truck, it's enough to make you rethink your definition of affordable. Now, let's put this into perspective. The Toyota Tundra has traditionally been a favorite among blue-collar, hard-working folks. Your everyday people who depend on their trucks to get things done. These buyers aren't looking for flashy features or over-the-top luxury. They're looking for a vehicle that's reliable, tough, and built to handle real work. Whether it's hauling heavy loads, towing equipment, or braving rough work sites, the Tundra has been a go-to for those who need a truck that earns its keep. But here's the problem. These astronomical price tags are completely alienating the very people the Tundra was made for. Imagine being a construction worker, a landscaper, or someone in farming or trades, and you walk onto a dealership lot looking for a solid work truck. You see those price tags, $60,000, $70,000, and suddenly the math just doesn't add up. By the time you factor in interest rates and a long loan term, you're looking at spending $75,000 or even $100,000 once it's all said and done. That's not just a truck anymore, that's a small mortgage. And let's not forget why these buyers need a truck in the first place. It's not to impress their neighbors or show off at the local coffee shop. They need a truck to do what trucks were meant to do: work hard. These folks want a dependable partner for their daily grind, not a luxury vehicle with a bed in the back. The Tundra used to be that practical, tough, and dependable choice, but with prices like these, it's starting to look more like a luxury purchase than a practical tool. Even more surprising is how we got here. During the pandemic, demand for trucks like the Tundra went through the roof. You couldn't find one on the lot if you tried, and prices skyrocketed because people were willing to pay whatever it took to get one. But now, things have shifted. The economy has tightened, interest rates are high, and people are being more careful about where their money goes. Suddenly, that $70,000 truck isn't looking so appealing, especially when gas prices and maintenance costs are added to the mix. Another thing to consider is how much competition there is in the truck market. Buyers have a lot of options these days. Brands like Ford, Chevrolet, and even Ram are offering trucks at various price points, some of which are much more affordable than the Tundra. When you're faced with a choice between a $60,000 Tundra and a comparable model from another brand that costs tens of thousands less, it's hard not to look elsewhere. And here's a kicker. Some of the features that come with these pricey Tundras might not even be what buyers want or need. Fancy interiors, state-of-the-art tech, and premium trims might sound great on paper, but they're not always practical for someone who's hauling lumber or navigating muddy work sites. All that extra luxury just inflates the price without adding much value for the average buyer. The SR5 barebones base model used to be a fantastic option for those wanting a reliable truck without all the bells and whistles. Back in the day, you could snag one for right around $30,000, but now, that same truck will set you back a whopping $43,000. Honestly, it's kind of ridiculous. Dealerships are catching on too, which is why we're seeing them slap discounts of $6,000 to $8,000 right off the MSRP in no time flat. They're trying to move this inventory quickly, but here's the kicker. They still can't get them off the lot. And it's not just the SR5. The same story applies to the Tundra. Dealers are throwing around discounts between $8,000 and $12,000 like it's no big deal. But even with those markdowns, they're struggling to sell them. It's clear that something's not adding up in the pricing game right now. If you think that's wild, wait until you hear about the Ford Bronco situation. Dealership lots across the United States are absolutely loaded with them. Seriously, there are so many Broncos just sitting there gathering dust. To sweeten the deal, some dealerships are offering discounts of $15,000 to $20,000 off the MSRP. Ford went a little too hard on pricing these at first, and now they're backtracking just a bit with their 2024 models. While that has created some nice savings across the board, these Broncos are still pretty overpriced. Even after the discounts, you're looking at a jaw-dropping $80,000. That's a lot of cash for a vehicle, no matter how cool it looks. And then there are the full-size SUVs. Families looking for a reliable family hauler are finding themselves in a tough spot. These brand new SUVs have become outrageously expensive, making it harder than ever for the average family to afford one. It's almost like the market forgot who these vehicles are supposed to be for. Real people trying to get from point A to point B with their kids and groceries in tow. Let's talk about the Ford Expedition for a second. These SUVs are marketed as the ultimate family haulers, spacious, luxurious, and packed with modern features. But the catch? The price tag. Most of them are sitting in the $80,000 to $100,000 range. That's more than many people's annual salary, and it's not like these are exotic sports cars. They're SUVs meant for everyday families who need to cart around kids, groceries, and maybe the family dog. Here's where it gets even crazier. You can snag a used Expedition from 2020 or 2021 for under $40,000. That's right, less than half the price of a brand new one. And those used models aren't barely running clunkers either. They're often in great condition with plenty of life left in them. What does that tell us? These SUVs absolutely tank in residual value. As soon as you drive a new one off the lot, its value plummets faster than you can say depreciation. So not only are the upfront prices outrageously high, but they're also a terrible investment for anyone hoping their vehicle holds some long-term value. It's no wonder so many families are steering clear, pun intended. Now let's switch gears, see what I did there, and talk about electric vehicles or EVs. Outside of Tesla, the EV market in the United States is in rough shape right now. Sales have absolutely cratered. It's not a slow decline, it's more like a nosedive off a cliff. Even Tesla, which has long been the darling of the EV world, has seen its vehicle values come crashing down over the last 2 years. Remember when Teslas were practically status symbols with sky-high resale values? Well, those days seem to be over. And it's not just Tesla feeling the heat. Take the Mustang Mach-E, for example. Ford went all in with this sleek, sporty EV, hoping to capture a new segment of eco-conscious drivers. But guess what? Sales are pretty much non-existent. They're just sitting on dealership lots, waiting for someone, anyone, to come along and take them home. The same goes for the Ford F-150 Lightning, which was supposed to revolutionize the truck market with its electric powertrain. But instead of electrifying sales, it's mostly sparking frustration. So, what's the deal? A big part of the problem is pricing. EVs were supposed to be the affordable future of driving, but that promise feels pretty empty when you see a Mustang Mach-E with a $52,000 price tag. $52,000. That's not exactly the kind of price point that gets the average consumer excited, especially in today's economy. And to add a little salt to the wound, guess where Ford is producing those Mach-Es? Mexico. Now, there's nothing inherently wrong with outsourcing production, but it definitely raises eyebrows for buyers who'd rather see these American cars built on American soil. It's just one more reason people might hesitate to pull the trigger on these pricey EVs. The Ford F-350 is different. These heavy-duty trucks are designed to handle serious work, towing, hauling, and just being all-around beasts on the road. But here's the catch. Many of them now come with price tags well over $100,000. Yes, you read that right. We're talking about 6 figures for a truck, and if you're looking at the high-end platinum models, that price tag becomes even more eye-popping. And now let's put this into perspective. If you're planning to finance the full amount for one of these $100,000 trucks, buckle up, because those monthly payments are no joke. Over a 72-month loan, that's 6 years, you're looking at monthly payments somewhere between $1,800 and $2,100 per month. That's mortgage level money for a vehicle. It's the kind of payment that makes you sit back and wonder if you're buying a house or a truck. And here's the thing, this is why so many people are getting denied for auto loans lately. In fact, in just the last quarter, 1 out of every 5 new auto loan applications was declined by banks. That's 20% of potential buyers being told no, and it's not hard to see why. With costs like this, banks are being extra cautious about who they lend to, especially when people are already struggling to keep up with their bills. The cost of living right now is through the roof. It's not just vehicles. Everything has gotten more expensive. Groceries, rent, mortgages, insurance, utilities, you name it, it's gone up. For many families, there's just not enough wiggle room in the budget anymore. And when people start prioritizing which bills to pay, auto loans are often the first to go. It's not that folks don't want to keep their cars, it's that they just can't afford to anymore. This financial strain has led to a big jump in repossessions. In fact, repossession rates have increased by 23% compared to last year. That's a huge leap, and it's a clear sign that people are struggling to keep up with their payments. It's a tough spot to be in. Losing your vehicle not only affects your daily life, like getting to work or running errands, but it can also have long-term consequences on your credit and financial stability. So what does this all mean? For one, the auto industry is feeling the pressure. If prices don't come down or wages don't start catching up, it's hard to see how this situation improves anytime soon. And for consumers, it's becoming more important than ever to really think about how much car you can afford. Not just the sticker price, but the long-term costs of financing, insurance, maintenance, and fuel or electricity for EVs. Right now, dealerships across the United States are in a bit of a pickle. With record high inventory levels, they're scrambling to figure out how to move vehicles off their lots. And let's be honest, they're getting pretty desperate. To attract buyers, many dealerships are offering some jaw-dropping discounts, slashing prices by as much as $10,000 to $15,000. These are massive markdowns aimed at enticing consumers who might otherwise be too wary of today's high vehicle prices to make a purchase. But even with these big discounts, selling these vehicles isn't exactly easy. Consumers are cautious, budgets are stretched thin, and big ticket purchases like cars feel more daunting than ever. The dealerships might manage to move some inventory with these price cuts, but the effects of these discounts ripple out much further than just new car sales. Here's the kicker. When dealerships start slashing prices on new cars, it directly impacts the value of used vehicles, including the one you might be trading in. If they're knocking $15,000 off the sticker price of a brand new car, what does that mean for your used car? It means your trade-in value takes a hit, and not a small one. Essentially, as new car prices drop, the value of used cars gets dragged down even further, leaving current owners with vehicles that are worth significantly less than they were just a few months ago. And this brings us to the growing issue of negative equity. Right now, the national average for negative equity in auto loans is $7,200. That means, on average, people owe $7,200 more on their car loan than their vehicle is actually worth. And it's getting worse. Just a few months ago, that number was $6,600. It gets even crazier when you dig into the numbers a bit more. 1 out of every 5 individuals with an auto loan owes a staggering $10,000 or more above the value of their vehicle. That's a tough spot to be in, especially if you're looking to trade in or sell your car. When you're underwater on your loan like that, it means you'd need to pay off the difference just to get out of your current vehicle. This whole situation creates a domino effect. High inventory levels lead to big discounts on new cars, which devalues used cars, increasing the amount of negative equity for current owners. And with more people underwater on their loans, fewer can afford to upgrade to a new vehicle, which only adds to the inventory problem for dealerships. It's a vicious cycle that's leaving both consumers and dealerships in a tough position. For anyone in the market for a car right now, it's a double-edged sword. Sure, the discounts on new vehicles might look tempting, but if you're trading in a car, you might not get anywhere near what you thought it was worth. And if you're carrying negative equity, those discounts might not even make a dent in your overall financial picture. Let's end with the Ford Explorer. It's become almost unrecognizable when it comes to price, with models now costing upwards of $62,000, $61,000, or even $60,000. And let's not forget $50,000. Those prices make you double check if you're buying a car or a small house. To make things even tougher, national auto loan debt has hit an all-time high. More people than ever are borrowing to buy cars, which just adds to the pressure. Remember when buying a vehicle felt like a smart investment? You'd drive it for a few years, then trade it in without taking a huge hit on resale value. Well, not anymore. Nowadays, cars can lose a jaw-dropping 25 to 35% of their value within the first 6 months of ownership. Let that sink in. You could be waving goodbye to a third of your car's value faster than you can say monthly payments. It's wild. Because of this, Americans are having a hard time justifying the sky-high prices of new pickup trucks and SUVs. And you know what? They're not alone. Dealerships are starting to feel the heat too. That's why we're seeing so many of them offering discounts and incentives just to move inventory off their lots. Now, here's the big question. Should you buy a vehicle right now? The answer is a solid maybe. If you're in the market for a new ride, this might not be a terrible time to buy, but if you can wait, 2025 could be even better. Why? Because as we speak, thousands of 2025 models are rolling onto dealership lots every single day. Most automakers are already well stocked, though a few, like Hyundai, Nissan, and Stellantis brands, think Jeep and Dodge, are still waiting for their first big shipments of 2025 models to arrive. Here's where it gets interesting. As of September, a whopping 80% of all new cars for sale in the United States were still 2024 models. Automakers and dealers are starting to sweat over what to do with the 2.5 million 2024 models still sitting around. As the lots begin to fill up with shiny new 2025 arrivals, they'll get increasingly desperate to sell off those older models. This means smart car shoppers can swoop in and take advantage of this dynamic. Toward the end of the year, you're likely to find some of the best deals around as dealerships try to clear their 2024 inventory before they're buried in 2025s. It's a buyer's market if you play your cards right. So whether you need a car now or can wait just a little longer, keep your eyes peeled and don't be afraid to negotiate. With a little patience and some savvy shopping, you could drive off with a great deal. What do you think about this? Let us know in the comments section. Also, make sure to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and activate the notification bell to stay updated with all our latest videos. While you're still here, click the video on your screen to see more interesting content like this one.